This is a theremin, music's spookiest instrument. You've heard it in many a movie, and there's a spooky story that goes with it, too. Here's Faith Salie.
It just might be the world's strangest, spookiest musical instrument. You can see it. You can hear it. But you can't touch a theremin.
It's like you're finger painting in space. Playing theremin is like having sex with ghosts.
Professional thereminist Rob Schwimmer is a member of the New York Theremin Society, which plays regularly in New York City.
It's a very hard instrument. There's nothing there to help you. You have no reference. Every other instrument, you have something. So if you're standing in front of the theremin and your body's a little bit this way or a little bit that way, or if you've put on, an 1/8 of a pound, your field will be different. So imagine waking up every morning if you're a violinist and having the neck be that much shorter or that much longer.
The theremin is named for its inventor, Leon Theremin.
Whoever would have thought that you could create an instrument that you don't actually touch?
Music professor and biographer Albert Glinsky says theremin's story is as mysterious as the instrument that bears his name.
Leon Theremin was a Russian scientist. He was a spy and inventor of what is probably the most unusual musical instrument ever invented, I think. You're actually moving your two hands through two electromagnetic fields that are around two antennas.
In 1919, 23-year-old Leon Theremin invented his namesake by accident.
He was working in a laboratory in Russia as a young scientist, and he was actually working on a gas meter to measure the density of gases. So as he brought his hand closer to the gas meter, he heard kind of a higher squeal, and as he brought his hand back to his body and away from the machine, it was a lower squeal. And he started to play melodies on this thing, and lab assistants and his boss in the lab started to gather around and said, well, this is amazing.
Theremin then devised a freestanding musical instrument based on his discovery, which he sensationally debuted in the United States in 1928.
He performed in major venues like Carnegie Hall and the Metropolitan Opera House. Critics really almost didn't know what to make of it. There was one who said that if Theremin had lived 500 years ago or something, he would have been burned at the stake as a sorcerer.
Critics also didn't know that Theremin was a KGB spy. His mission? Industrial espionage, which was a key reason why he turned to RCA, back then a cutting-edge American electronics manufacturer, to mass produce his instrument. But playing the theremin turned out to be quite a challenge. It remained a musical oddity. Hollywood to the rescue. Turns out the theremin's eerie, ethereal sounds were perfect for horror and suspense movies, from the low budget to the films of Alfred Hitchcock. On to the 60s, when bands like Captain Beefheart made the theremin cool. Instrumental in this theremin renaissance, a young engineer named Robert Moog. He got his start selling do-it-yourself theremin kits from the basement of his Queens, New York home, and then went on to make some music history of his own as the man behind the Moog synthesizer.
What do you think Robert Moog found so fascinating about the theremin?
Stephen Dunnington is an engineer at Moog Music in Asheville, North Carolina.
It can sound vocal, it can sound like a cello, it can sound like a violin in the right hands. So, the musical side of Bob, he was captivated by this expressiveness, and the technical side of Bob was captivated by the circuit. It's a really kind of cool design. And then finally, there's the story behind it, which is the mystery of Leon Theremin, right?
Though Moog passed away in 2005, you can hear the Theremin's influence in every synthesizer sold. In fact, Moog's company still makes Theremins. They're its single best-selling instrument.
Do you sell thousands and thousands of Theremins?
Over the years, we have sold thousands and thousands of Theremins, yes.
Do you think thousands and thousands of people can play the theremin well?
I know for a fact that thousands and thousands of people cannot play the theremin well. Although we're approaching hundreds and hundreds of people, which is awesome.
And what became of Leon Theremin? One day, he vanished, returned to his homeland, leaving his instrument and a young American wife behind. Years later, after the fall of the Iron Curtain, he and Robert Moog would meet face to face before Theremin's death in 1993.
I am Dracula, and I bid you welcome.
100 years ago, Count Dracula emerged from Gothic Transylvania to become the most published and filmed story in the world, except for the Bible.
I am Dracula.
It's the old eternal battle between good and evil. And then, of course, it's all mixed up with sexuality. You know, this cloaked, fanged man who climbs in through the bedroom windows of virgins and then gets into the bed and then...
While the myths of the blood-sucking vampire come from Eastern Europe, Dracula is the creation of Irish writer Bram Stoker. For an author who wanted to bring death to life, Ireland provided ample inspiration. Stoker was born in Dublin in 1847 during the Great Potato Famine, when 1 million people died of starvation and fever.
It would have been a period when people were acquainted for the first time with mass death, and with public death, and with mass burials, and with piles of corpses.
Irish academic and politician David Norris is a distant relative of Bram Stoker.
So there would have been this atmosphere of death, of gloom, of mourning, of fear, of some kind of a sinister infection. And I think that probably helped to give Stoker some of this sort of morbid imagining.
A sickly child, bedridden his first 7 years, Stoker may have been infected with such imaginings by living in a medical household. Members of his family were well-known Dublin physicians.
One of them was a famous surgeon in the College of Surgeons, and he perfected a technique called trepanning operation, which meant cutting a piece out of the skull and introducing instruments into the actual brain tissue. So if you imagine the gloomy old house he was brought up in, the medical notebooks perhaps lying around the place, and then his mother's stories of the famine, then I think you get an idea of where this kind of cocktail started to brew.
The potent ingredients included the Protestant church where he was baptized and the surrounding cemetery. There's a lot of fuel for the imagination in this cemetery, isn't there?
There is. It's a very, very atmospheric cemetery.
Stoker expert Dennis McIntyre says Bram liked to sit among the headstones here, where years ago families hired guards and covered graves with heavy lids to prevent body snatching.
They were after bodies to sell to surgeons for research, and they had to get the body fairly soon, 2 to 3 days after burial, or otherwise, decay and that would have set in.
A novelist, says McIntyre, writes best about the world he knows.
His mother told him a story dating from 1832 in Sligo, where she was born, where there was a particularly bad cholera epidemic. And she literally left written accounts of people being pushed alive into graves. I wonder, could he not have got the idea of some of these people getting back up again? You know, the undead.
At another Dublin church, the young Bram might have seen what truly looked like the undead. Bram Stoker's maternal ancestors are buried in a crypt here in St. Michan's Church. In the underground vaults, some of the bodies are so old their coffins have rotted away. The air is so dry and cool, the remains are preserved under the dust of centuries.
It was a special treat, particularly around times like Halloween, to be taken to St. Michan's, down into the crypt. There was still the wonderful tracery work of spiders' webs, several hundred years of spiders' webs, and there were a complete curtain, and there were some medieval mummies there. There was a crusader, there was a nun, and as small children we were permitted to shake hands with the nun or with the crusader, and you shook hands with this leathery, skeletal little hand, and it did give a certain kind of frisson, I have to say. So this was a sort of treat that would have been available for middle-class children like Bram Stoker.
Hallowed ground like this, where the Stoker family has a marker, was forbidden in those days to people who committed suicide. They were buried near Stoker's childhood home, in unmarked graves, in a macabre and brutal ritual to keep their tormented spirits from wandering.
The traditional method of dealing with a suicide was not only to bury them in unconsecrated ground, but also to drive a stake through the heart. And it's probably from that and from the proximity of the suicide's graveyard that Stoker may have got part of the idea of killing, of destroying a vampire by driving a stake through the heart.
Although Stoker never went to Transylvania, he set part of the novel in Whitby on the English coast, where he vacationed near the Yorkshire moors. It is in Whitby where Dracula came ashore and found his first victim in the shadow of this ruined abbey. It is in Whitby where Dracula aficionados gather to keep the vampire myth alive.
Excellent.
I think it was the kind of the operatic idea of old, mouldering churches and the presence of the sea and all this kind of. So I think it was really just atmospheric, and it touched something in his mind.
The various influences on him would suggest that this type of creature was gnawing at him from the inside for a long time, a lot longer than the 5 or 6 years he took to pen the book.
As Ireland was suffused with religion, so too is the novel. The basic battle between good and evil.
And the crucifix represents the power of good, a kind of magical, potent symbol, which, if exhibited to the evil person, will drive them back.
The obsession with the body and the blood, following the master, and the question of eternal life.
He has created a universal myth in the 20th century through Dracula, and that surely is an achievement. You know, he conjures an atmosphere through language, and I think it's entitled to be called a masterpiece.
Have you been to Neverland lately?
Have you been to Neverland? With Tinkerbell?
Here they are. Oh, goody, it's that teacher. Who's this?
Okay, Pippi.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Halloween has become a major holiday with elaborate home decorations and expensive, professional-looking costumes. But the central activity, trick-or-treating, is done the same outmoded, inefficient way it was 100 years ago. It's not the kids' fault. They haven't had proper training.
Sort of the same, but not really.
Okay, guys, sit down. Okay, you guys, now you've got to listen up because we've only got a few more days till Halloween, as you know. Some of you guys have been out trick-or-treating with me before. You know my philosophy of trick-or-treating. Some of you haven't. What's trick-or-treating all about, anyway? Alex?
And candy.
Right.
They were here to be taught a systematic approach to maximizing candy accumulation.
What we recommend is a 30-gallon trash bag or a pillowcase off your mom and dad's bed, because you might think it's impossible for you to get this much candy on Halloween, but it's not impossible using our new approach, PTOT, Power Trick-or-Treating, a dynamic approach for the 90s.
For 2 hours, we went over every conceivable aspect of power trick-or-treating.
Don't dog it out there. I don't want to see any dilly-dallying or disorganization. A smart trick-or-treater will come up, open up your bag, and if you have a really big candy bar, put that on top. Why would you do that? Libby?
So, since you've got so many of them, they'll think that you've gotten all big ones, so they'll give you a big one.
Excellent. This is our Halloween tactical terrain map. This is an area of expensive homes situated close together so that we won't waste a lot of time going from house to house.
What the heck?
We're going to sweep down this way and strike in this general area right here, just before dusk.
Conditioning, of course, was part of the training.
Excellent time. Hut, 2, 3, ha, hut, 2, 3, ha. Your left, right, left.
Finally, they were shaping up as a crack unit, ready for the field tests.
Left, right, left, right, left. Right here. All right, listen up. We're going to be operating under actual simulated Halloween conditions today. We're going to go up to this house. You might see these boo signs and so on in the front yard. People will try and scare you, but don't be intimidated.
No ghosts.
No.
No witches.
If I understand your question, there will be no witches whatsoever. Okay? Hustle it up. Nobody home?
It's a practice. Bud.
Okay, bail out. Move to the next house. Move, 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 move. Move. You're dogging it. You're dogging it, Woody. Pick it up. This house is a tactical gamble. It's going to cost us a lot of time to go all the way up that hill. We're going to send a guy ahead to scout it out. If they're up there and they have treats, go like this and the rest of us will come up. Ready, set.
Woody, wait!
Woody, wait.
I got this. I got this. What I got? Guess what it is?
Go. Oh. Move, move, move. Get up those steps. It's tough terrain, I know. It's already starting to pay off, isn't it?
Yeah.
But as we looked ahead to Halloween, some of the rookies had second thoughts.
You never trick-or-treated?
This is the first year I did.
Really? So do you think these ideas that I'm telling you, do you think they'll work?
Well, actually, I think it won't.
There, there,
Left, right, left. 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 Come on, Johnny. Keep going. Hustle it up back there. Hustle it up.
Aflac. What do the Aflac duck, the Terminator, Edward Scissorhands' hands, and the Tyrannosaurus Rex in Jurassic Park all have in common? They happen to be the work of Hollywood's biggest name in creature creation.
I actually was going to be a dentist and have probably done more teeth than most dentists in ways that most people haven't done teeth.
Indeed. Meet Stan Winston, who presides over about the strangest workshop you're likely to see.
Come on this way. Come on. Come on. There's more stuff.
Ever visit a creature factory? Well, we're definitely not talking widgets here.
What are they made of?
Where molds are made of fiberglass and silicone, characters are made of fiberglass and foam rubber, their interiors are mechanical.
Remember the geeky kids who spent their childhoods making weird models or doing grotesque drawings of dragons and monsters? They're all here, grown up and doing it for a living. Although this is what Stan Winston has to say about them.
These are truly the Renaissance artists of the 20th and 21st century, without question. In the days of Michelangelo, the Renaissance artists worked for the churches. Today, the Renaissance artists work in the film business. But it's an homage to Michelangelo, that's what I was saying. It's all about the art.
Picture Michelangelo doing dinosaurs. In case you thought all those Jurassic Park dinos were computer generated, think again.
First it's drawn, then everything is sculpted in miniature, and then this miniature of this Spinosaur, which ended up, we built full size, ended up, this character on set weighed 25,000 pounds. 12 and a half tons. And 1,000 horsepower. It did whatever it wanted to do.
The trick was to make each dinosaur look and move as if it were real. No small achievement given the shortage of dinosaur DNA. Watch how they worked on getting the feet right. So when you saw actors in Jurassic Park 3 interacting with dinosaurs, they weren't just faking it in front of a blank screen.
In the original Jurassic Park, there were 15 minutes of dinosaurs total in the entire movie. 9 of those minutes were live, 6 of those minutes were animated.
Don't move. Can't see us if we don't move.
From an acting standpoint, you don't have to ask that actor to act afraid. Because that actor is afraid. Because there is danger at hand. We would put caution tape around all of the dinosaurs so that anyone, when they were not in the scene, would stay away from it. But we've had dinosaurs go crazy, and that's a scary thing.
And as this Making of Jurassic Park documentary shows, they don't do well in rain.
And as he would get rained on, his skin would soak up water and his weight would change. And in the middle of the day, he would start having the shakes and we'd have to dry him down.
Stan Winston went to Hollywood to become an actor, but his day job was as a makeup artist. He became famous for taking on some of the toughest transformations in movies and television. In The Wiz, for example, creatures were the natural next step. He won his first of 4 Oscars for the 1986 film Aliens.
It was because of having built a 14-foot queen alien that Steven Spielberg could come to me and say, well, if you built a 14-foot queen alien, can you build a 20-foot dinosaur? And I say, yeah, we can build a 20-foot dinosaur. He said, well, how are you going to do that? I said, I don't know how we're going to do it. We'll figure it out. See how much reality you can get out of a simple puppet.
Gee, how did you do that is a question that keeps getting asked over and over on a tour of Stan Winston studios.
How does the Aflac duck work?
Multitudes of puppetry. It's puppetry.
So he moves around.
He does move around.
What's this? What's this?
Look at this.
Oh, I
These
see.
are the actions that puppeteers use to actually then create a performance of this duck.
Whether the gee whiz effect is really no more than a man in a suit, like the Predator. Gloves in the case of Edward Scissorhands.
The breakthrough for me was that the blades work like this as scissors, not like this.
So the blades are fingers.
It's gloves. It's all they are.
Or the unbelievably sophisticated figures in AI, artificial intelligence. Winston wants every tool possible at his disposal. Often his figures combine live action with the latest in CG, computer-generated animation. He is always pushing the boundaries.
Here's, of course, the puppet of Arnold from Terminator 3,
This was
where we
actually
literally,
used.
we actually removed half his body, and then when it was Arnold, it was CG and makeup effects.
The evolution of the Terminator represents a revolution in Stan Winston's craft.
We pretended to build robots in Terminator 1. In Terminator 3, we built robots. They were on these big tank-like treads. They're called the T-1s.
Want to know the most complex movie robot Stan Winston Studios has ever built?
The Velociraptor in Jurassic Park had 48 points of motion. The Tyrannosaurus Rex had like 44 points of motion to give it all of its performance. And there's huge dinosaurs to allow them to act. Teddy had 50 points of motion.
Yes, Little Teddy from Steven Spielberg's Artificial Intelligence. In the movie, sometimes computer-generated, but at other times, a robot and a puppet, all seamlessly interchangeable on screen.
You had rod puppets working as
Rod
legs?
puppets. We had a walking puppet. We had one where the puppeteer would walk and Teddy would walk in front of him. Just wonderful rigs that actually created the performance out of this great character.
Teddy inspired a professor at MIT's Artificial Intelligence Lab, Cynthia Brazil, to talk Winston into a collaboration. The result? This little fellow named Leonardo, who has 66 different points of motion.
Right now, he is learning to have eye contact with you, take audio commands, push certain buttons. Very good. So many people say, why are you doing it? Why do this robot with MIT? Just costing me a lot of money. I'm not going to make any money. Why are you doing it? Because it's so cool. Because it's fun. Everything that I did when I was a kid, I'm doing today. Everything I did as a kid. Still a kid. 12 years old with white hair.
Except that now, instead of a bedroom full of creepy monster models, he's got a conference room full of them. Some of the weirdest, ugliest, scariest, most famous and best-loved characters ever created.
There's a saying that at the end of the day, you know, the guy with the most toys wins. I win.
You've got the most toys.
I got the most toys.
The end. That's where so many ghost stories begin, isn't it? They thrill us with thoughts of life after death and restless spirits wandering the earth. Even if we know they're only make-believe. Or are they?
Is it haunted?
Yeah, it's haunted.
If ever there was a real haunted house,
I get excited coming to places like this.
it would be this one.
I'm ready.
And if anyone should know, it would be this guy, Jeff Belanger, author of The World's Most Haunted Places.
Well, there's a nursery rhyme that's pretty popular around here. It goes, Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks, and when she saw what she had done, gave her father 41.
Lizzie lived here with her dad and stepmom?
That's right, and their maid Bridget.
This house in Fall River, Massachusetts,
This is where Andrew Borden was murdered.
is where Lizzie Borden was accused of brutally hacking her parents to death in 1892.
You know, if nothing else, you know, we are standing exactly where a man lost his life, you know, right here.
A former journalist, Belanger is 100% convinced he's both heard and seen a ghost.
I mean, it's a rush. It's incredible. It's a big question, you know. Is there life after death? When you go looking for ghosts, when you have that experience, it's answered. Something happens after we die.
This is where you had an experience?
And it was right here in Lizzie Borden's basement.
4 of us standing right here, and right above us where we just walked, we hear this, you know, doom, 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 coming by, and we were right up those stairs as fast as we could go. There's nothing there.
And Belanger's not alone. A new CBS poll shows that fully 40% of Americans believe in ghosts or spirits. And of those believers, 51% say they've actually seen or been in the presence of a ghost, which means roughly 60 million Americans believe they have had a paranormal encounter.
I am thy father's spirit.
Ghosts and ghost stories have long been a part of our culture.
I want to tell you my secret now.
And are a Hollywood staple.
I see dead people.
But lately, it's reality TV.
Whoa. Dude, there's some noise going on out here.
Stop! That's breathing new life into the dead.
What the hell's flying around in here?
Shows like Ghost Hunters.
Is there anybody here?
Ghost Adventures.
This isn't funny.
Paranormal State. And Most Haunted, just to name a few.
Get me out, please.
The world, it seems, is crawling with ghosts, and everyone with a video camera or an iPhone is out looking for them. But here's the catch. Despite all the attention they're getting, there's not one shred of scientific evidence that ghosts really do exist.
So over the years, how many haunted places have you visited?
Oh, scores upon scores. It must be in the low hundreds. These were spirit pictures that supposedly materialized.
Former private eye turned paranormal investigator Joe Nickel works for the Center for Inquiry in Buffalo, New York.
Even if I tell them that this is a fake, some people probably wouldn't believe it.
He's been tracking ghosts for 40 years. And how many has he found?
Approximately 0, just in round figures. The idea of a ghost energy leaving your body at death, being able to walk and talk, have a brain, is scientific nonsense. It's a romantic idea, but it's scientific nonsense. Typical of the mail I get. I've been haunted by a spirit for the past 8 years at least.
Nickel believes the vast majority of ghost sightings can be attributed to a common phenomenon called hypnagogia, a transitional state between wakefulness and sleeping.
Thousands of stories of people waking up and seeing a ghost near their bedside or gliding by, or their dead father standing beside the sofa where they dozed off. You're experiencing a waking dream.
Hello? But the current crowd of ghost hunters spooking up reality TV
You see that?
are wide awake when they see ghosts.
You believe in ghosts?
Yes.
And their hair-raising tales have inspired a wave of converts.
Do you believe in ghosts?
I believe that there's a middle. Some people haven't crossed over yet, so yeah.
These folks are hoping to have their own ghost stories to tell after a recent visit to another of the world's most haunted places, the Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Louisville, Kentucky.
Let's have a look at one of these sanatoria, or tuberculosis hospitals as they're called today.
In the 1920s and 30s, Waverly Hills was one of the largest tuberculosis hospitals in the country. Thousands of patients never made it out alive.
Do you believe this place is haunted?
I know this place is haunted.
Tina Mattingly and her husband bought the abandoned building in 2001 with the original intention of restoring it.
At one point, people didn't want other people or people to know that it was haunted.
Being haunted wasn't a good thing.
Wasn't a good thing,
But
and now everybody wants to be haunted.
Okay, guys, follow me, please.
Ghosts are big business.
Be careful, use your light.
And Waverly Hills offers regular ghost tours with solid bookings through next year.
We're going to go into the body chute.
One of the highlights, the body chute, a 500-foot tunnel used to transport bodies of deceased patients out of the building.
Have people seen ghosts in here?
Sure.
Sure?
Sure.
Like what?
Oh, full bodies. They get them in photos. They get them on video. And do you see it?
Oh, now I do. There's a guy sitting there.
He's sitting.
Tina has amassed quite a collection of video and photos taken by people touring the 5 floors of the hospital.
And that's a spirit. This is a long shot from inside what we call the chapel. And then if you blow it up,
it almost looks like 2 figures.
There's 2 figures there. You can't deny that there is something there. And there was no live person there.
It's fascinating stuff, all these tales from the dark side.
Not one ghost photo has ever been authenticated by science. Not one.
But for paranormal investigator Joe Nickel, who's seen it all, it's all just make-believe.
The paranormal promises these huge things. If ghosts are real, then we don't really die. But there is no scientific evidence, not a scintilla.
So next time you hear something go bump in the night or see a strange glow in your local cemetery, try to get it on film. You may end up convincing some people that spirits do exist. With others, you won't stand a ghost of a chance.
We leave you this Sunday morning, not in the pumpkin patch, but in the web of a Halloween favorite, an itsy-bitsy spider.